Hello, everyone. I am Jack Schaefer. I'm a developer here at the game agency, and I'm joined by Jamie McDonald, our head of business here at the game agency. In today's webinar, I'd like to walk you through building a sorted game inside the Training Arcade platform. If you all are new here, welcome. We're super excited to have you, and if you're a regular, welcome back. Just a reminder, Jamie put in the chat just a few moments ago that if you're not currently a subscriber to the Training Arcade and you haven't signed up for a free trial yet, there's actually a 14-day free trial available at thetrainingarcade.com. So again, that link is in the chat. You all can click that link and take advantage of that offer. When you get to the Training Arcade site, just simply click Start Your Free Trial. Also, in case you have any folks that were unable to make this webinar session, we are recording this and we'll send out the video in a link after today's session. So for today's webinar, we're going to give a brief overview of the Training Arcade, and we're going to explore creating the Sorted game. Sorted was released onto the platform sometime in September of last year. It's a great game to teach strategic thinking for e-learning and instructor-led training, improving skills like categorization, identity, and order. And the mechanic itself requires learners to take answers from a bank of content and properly place it in rows and columns to complete a grid. We'd like to make this a working session, so please feel free to ask any questions throughout, and I'll either address them or Jamie will answer your questions in the chat. That being said, let's jump into what the Training Arcade is. So why does the Training Arcade exist in the first place? So the game agency launched in 2007, and 95% of what we do is custom game development. And what we found throughout the years is that not all of our clients have had the budget for a custom gamified solution. And so we wanted to create a product that was not only affordable, but also a tool that would allow anyone to easily create and deploy games rapidly. The Training Arcade is that tool. It lets you complement exactly or everything what you're doing already, whether it's various types of training, sales training, pharmaceutical, other meetings, even client or in-house events. Adding the Training Arcade complements your activity because you're providing games as the source to drive engagement with your content and increase knowledge retention. I know today's demo is specifically about the Sorted game, but I wanted to mention that our Training Arcade also includes the Jeopardy game. This is the only Jeopardy game on the market exclusively and officially licensed by Sony Productions for the Training Arcade's use. And I also noticed Jamie put in the chat that we have some new pricing available. So we offer a total of 8 games for $5,999 per year, so about $6,000 per year, and Jeopardy is included in that offer. Or we also have single games available for about $1,500, and Jeopardy is also one of those games. I think that about does it for the Training Arcade in a nutshell. Jamie, is there anything that I missed that you'd like to add?
Yeah, just a couple of quick things, Jack. Thanks. In addition to the games in the platform and the game authoring tool that lets you build your own games yourself, the platform also includes a robust analytics dashboard. So in real time, you would be able to measure the effectiveness of the learning, whether it's through e-learning or if it's an instructor-led game or even at a large sales training meeting with thousands of people. You'll be able to know in real time where the gaps in the learning are, so you can go back and reteach that information and make sure that the learners master it and you have a better ROI. In addition, the platform includes a leaderboard. So if you're looking to do, to drive additional competition and motivation among your learners, certainly the leaderboard is something that you can turn on or off depending on your needs. And it can be used again in a live environment, but you can also have the leaderboard show up on the game over screen. So each learner at the end of their game play can actually see their score and how they ranked against everybody else. I think that does it, Jack. Take it over from here. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. So I'd like to show you a completed game first, just to give you an idea or a preview of what the users see when they play the completed game. And then I'll go ahead and I'll dive into the admin. So it's easier to visualize exactly what you're building inside the admin and show you really how simple it can be. So I'm going to change my screens here, one moment. So while I'm setting this up, I wanted to take a moment and just mention that this game takes into account multiple levels of thinking, and it requires your users to think strategically and also outside of the box. And it can improve upon can improve upon a user's strategic thinking skills and also their ability to categorize, identify, and sort quickly and correctly. Technical difficulty here. All right, let me get the game up. Here we go. Okay, so this is an existing game that we have created about change management. This is a sorted game. So let me just dive right into here. I'll put my initials for registration. There's a little tutorial, and I'll show you how to activate this once we get into the admin, but this is just showing users how to play the game pretty quickly. And then once we dive in, and you can see, so this is the sorted game. So at the very top, you'll notice the answer bank. And users must click answers from the answer bank and click on the empty square in the grid where they think it belongs. And this specific grid is about change managers. So we have the following column titles: getting ready for change, making change happen, and reinforcing change. And the row titles on the right, steps 1 through 4, that correspond with the specific steps that each user has to fill in. So users would select answers that fill into the intersection for each of those categories to complete the grid correctly. And so just so you see, I'll click on an answer, and then I'll click on the grid or the square that I think it'll populate, and I'll submit my answer. If you get it wrong, the answer will highlight in red, and that answer will actually return to the answer bank. If they were to get the answer correct, the answer will highlight in green and remain on the grid. So then users can then use the powers of deduction to place any of the remaining squares on the grid to complete it within the allotted time. So now let's hop over into the game admin screen. So whenever you come into the admin, when you're creating a game for the first time, or if you're coming back to edit the game, in this particular example, I'm going to edit the existing change management game that you just saw. The first section that you'll see is the game information screen. And this is where you can set all of the default settings for your game. And this includes the name of your game, the specific URL where your users can play the game, whether you'd like to add a passing score or not. So you can actually require that users must answer 80% or whatever percentage of the questions correctly. And then because we can hook into your LMS, we can pass that score back to it. And so they won't be able to move on from that particular course until they reach your certain percentage. You can also elect whether you'd like to use a default timer across all of your questions and then set the specific time for that or not. We also have really awesome flexibility. So we offer a few themes right out of the box with the sorted game, including tracks as well. But you can also make the game more of your own, and I'll show you an example of a custom game here at the closer to the end of the webinar. But you can upload your company logo, a custom game title, and even your own background art that will be displayed throughout the game, and to really, really make it yours and adhere to a specific thing, a theme. And then last but not least, I wanted to touch on, we also offer the ability to add user registration. So if you have a particular group of people, for example, your marketing team, you can upload a CSV of authorized player names and emails allowed to access this particular URL. We also support single sign-on as an authorization type if your company utilizes single sign-on. And that is the game information screen. Jamie, is there anything you wanted to add onto this before I move on to the questions?
Nope, I'm great, thanks.
Perfect. Okay, so then after you've set all of your game default settings, you can go ahead and move on to the questions tab. So if you're starting from scratch, this will be blank. If you're coming back and you're editing, all of your questions will be contained in these dark blue tabs that you'll see here. To add new content, you can click either one of these green buttons up at the top. For example, if you add the interstitial slide, I'll go ahead and click on this. This is a slide that often appears before a question. It's an informational card that serves as an intermediary content slide, and it can be used to provide pertinent information to your users through an image or a video, and you can upload that here. It can be, you can use this slide to set the stage and provide some additional information to your users if desired. I'm going to remove that. And then clicking the Add Question button, this will add your grid. And the grid, I'm going to go ahead and just click on my tab here. the grid will be contained within that dark blue tab, and you can edit your grid. You can click on the tab, it's going to expand, and you'll see that all of the content for it is right here within. And there's a lot that's going on here on the UI, but we're going to walk through every bit of it. I'm going to actually go scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see that you have two buttons down here, add rows and add columns. You can add actually up to a maximum of 6 rows and 6 columns for a total of 36 squares in your grid. You can shift the order and change any one of these rows if desired by just clicking and holding down on this icon right over here on the left-hand column or side. And then you see just drag and drop to the position desired. You also have the option if at any point you would like to delete a column or a row to just wipe it, hover over the pink trash can next to that specific column or row title, and you'll see that the delete column prompt will come up. Just be aware that once you click the trash can icon, it's instantaneous. There's no extra prompt to make sure you want to confirm. So make sure you really want to delete it before clicking that, but that's how you'll get rid of that. So when you get into this part of the section, to make it the most straightforward, we really recommend creating the column and row titles first so that visualizing your answers within the grid is much easier. So in the example I'm showing you about the change management rollout, again, our columns are getting ready for change, making change happen, reinforcing change. And then we have the row title, step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And adding our answer blocks to the grid is super straightforward. So all you have to do is you click on an empty square. It'll look exactly like this, and you can select from one of 3 answer types. First one is empty, and just like in this last step, for our example, step 4 really has only 2 answers that apply to this specific row and column. And so we'll leave the third empty since we don't have a third one, and that's what this answer type is used for. You also have the option to select upload an image, and you can upload an image as the answer, or you can select text and write a text block that users must pick from the answer bank at the top of the screen and place in the correct position of the grid. So then just remember that the column plus the rows plus the answers within each represent the correctly completed grid that your users will need to solve. So if you recall the example that I showed you, the completed game, this is actually the completed grid with all of the answers filled in. This is exactly what you would want your users to fill out as the end result after completing the game. So I just want to touch on a few more items here, because that is the meat of the sorted game, the questions here. So let's move over to the Publish tab. So the Publish tab is going to display your URL endpoint where your users can access the game, and as well as give you access to the SCORM packages that you can download so you can plug your TTA games into your LMS. Just click on the SCORM package or the SCORM version for your platform, and you can download it in the zip file. It's going to contain all of the hooks and the necessary components for your instructional designer to integrate with your LMS. And then finally, I wanted to show you an example of a game with custom art. Click on this tab. So you, again, like I said earlier, you actually have the ability to design and upload your own custom art for the game. In this example, we did a St. Patrick's Day sort of game and uploaded art to adhere to that specific theme. And as you can see, it really brings, really pops, and it's going to bring all the content together. So I'll actually dive in here real quick. And so this theme, this art will stay persistent throughout. And it really helps, again, if you're trying to adhere to a specific theme or make your company art stand out, you can do so. You can add, it looks really pretty and just brings everything all together. So there is some more time left. Before I open the floor for questions, I just wanted to also mention that the sorted game is being used currently by healthcare, finance, retail, and several other industries at the time. And it's been really popular. Again, it's a game that helps improve your users' strategic, critical thinking skills, their abilities to sort, categorize. It's really great for teamwork and collaboration. If you have events, your users can get together and work on solving the grid before them. It's a fantastic tool to do so, to increase user engagement, competitive behavior, and increase knowledge retention.
Jack, do you want to maybe quickly show the analytics dashboard on one of the games, just to give anyone who's new on the call a glimpse into what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the tax trivia one. That's a good game if you want to show that one.
Sure. We'll scroll down here. Okay, perfect. So this is an example of the analytics dashboard, as Jamie said, for the tax trivia game. So it gives you an overview overall as soon as you go into the game, how many users have played your game, the high score, number of sessions, completed sessions, and then the average time they're spent playing the game, as well as the leaderboard and specific stats about each user. You can set specific date ranges. You can search for specific players if desired. Scroll down a little bit further, and you can even see question stats. And now this is really cool. You can see the specific question, the average time spent on that question, and then the percentage of your users who got it correct versus incorrect, how many total attempts that they had, and then on which attempt did they get that answer correct versus incorrect, up to 3 attempts, which is pretty fascinating. So you can see where your users are struggling, where they're learning, where they're kind of figuring things out. And then I also believe we can click on a user here, and we can dive into that specific user stats. So you have a very wide, a very broad view, but you can also get very granular and look at each individual user, each individual player, and see how they're doing between the sessions, their questions, where they're struggling, and where they're succeeding. So I think that does it. Jamie, is there anything else you'd like to?
Yeah, just one quick thing. So when it comes to the analytics, so when you subscribe to the platform, it typically comes with one administrator, or you could choose to have more administrators. As far as parsing the data out to your colleagues, if there's a variety of people who want to see the data, there's a few things you could do. One is you could simply export the data as a CSV file and share it out, through email. Another way is you can go into, on the left column where you see users, you can actually assign additional viewers from your team, and they can come on and view the data themselves. So there's a lot of flexibility with how you can share that data amongst your organization. There's also, currently the way it's set up is you're defining the users by either first name, last name, email. You can pick a country, you can pick an organization. Some of our clients have asked us to do slight custom add-ons if they're looking for the actual units within their organization, or they want something regional. So just to let you know, there is a lot of flexibility in terms of ways we can customize the data for your needs if it doesn't currently show the breakdown the way that you would want to see it.
That's great. So we'll check the chat real quick. So if there's any questions, and if there are no questions, I think that just about does it. And so I just want to thank everyone for coming out for the webinar. We're going to continue to host these on a bi-weekly basis. And actually, I think our next session, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to cover the scenarios game, and that's next week, actually. And the scenarios game has some really awesome updates. So we hope to see you all there. Again, thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks everybody for joining.